Black, searing pain went up her arm and exploded inside her skull as the massive blob bit down above her wrist. The sharp teeth chewed through skin, muscle, and bone with little effort. Rachel screamed again as she struggled to free herself. There was a loud snap, and she was launched backwards. Blood spurted from the severed stump. Unable to think, her first reaction was to half-crawl, half-drag herself further into the interior of the market, while keeping the Unar in sight. The creature never moved as it devoured her hand. She was rapidly growing woozy from blood loss, and she glanced around for something to use as a tourniquet. She found herself in the paper goods aisle, and something made her reach for a box of plastic garbage bags and tear off the perforated lid. Pulling one out, she managed to wrap her stump and tie it off by using her teeth to help hold the handles. She was on the verge of blacking out. The pain had receded somewhat, but returned with a vengeance when she moved her arm. She knew she had to get out of the market and get back to her apartment, but as long as that thing lay between her and the front door, there was no way. "Oh God, Sorrow, if there's any way you can hear me, please help." Her eyes scanned the ceiling for signs of more of them. She spotted an open vent and surmised that was where the blob had been hiding. Fortunately, the vent was on the other side of the market. A movement caught her attention, and she looked back down to see the shapeless mass oozing in her direction. With the appetizer finished, it was time for the next course. Fighting dizziness, Rachel managed to get to her feet and stumble further back down the aisle until she reached the frozen food display case. Snatching items randomly from inside the case, she threw several boxes of frozen meals at it. The ones that managed to hit the creature simply bounced off. Each time the Unar paused, but it eventually continued toward her. Past the paper products were miscellaneous household items. Among them were boxes of matches. She grabbed a carton off the shelf and stopped. With one hand, it would be nearly impossible to light them. Giving a little cry of frustration, she threw the box at the mass where the wooden matchsticks lay stuck in the goo like porcupine quills. She rushed to the back of the store and hurried to the far aisle. If she could circle around, she might be able to dash out the front door. Clutching her mutilated arm to her chest, Rachel tried to be as quiet as possible as she made her way up to the front of the store. A quick peek around the end of the display reassured her the blob was still over by the paper goods aisle. The way was clear. This was her chance. But she would have to vault over the checkout counter to stay clear of the Unar. She sprinted for the counter, using her one hand as leverage to spring over the waist-high object. She never expected for her hand to slip on the paper bags lying there. The momentum of her legs going over the counter forced her body to twist, and she landed flat on her back on the outside sidewalk. Her head hit the concrete with a sickening crunch, and she blacked out. It took the Unar a moment to realize that its prey had managed to get behind it. Seeing the woman lying unmoving at the entrance, it turned around to advance. There was a tug on her hair, then another. The third time, the hair was ripped from her scalp, and Rachel awoke to a world filled with pain. She jerked away from whatever was caught in her hair and rolled onto her stomach as she fought to remain conscious. When she tried to shove her hands underneath her to get to her feet, her stub hit the concrete sidewalk, and more hot agony shot through her entire body. Crying out, she finally got one foot underneath her and barely managed to stand up. She wobbled slightly, stepping backwards as she tried to maintain her balance, and just missed having the Unar close its teeth over the toe of her shoe. She retreated another few steps and bumped into the side of a van parked at the curb. The blob remained in the doorway of the market where it was in the shadows, out of direct sunlight. "What's the matter, you alien mother? What are you, part vampire too?" She was astonished at the language coming out of her mouth, but at this point she didn't care. The old Rachel was gone, and if she was going to survive, she had better start using her brain.